Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of Doctor Who. It was called Lucky Day. And as it starts, the Doctor and Belinda land in London on New Year's Eve and proceed to take a reading with the Vindicator. They then notice a young boy nearby and ask him what year it is. It turns out that his name is Conrad, and he tells them that it's 2007. The Doctor then hands him a coin that he found moments earlier, telling him that it's his lucky day, and Conrad runs off. In the present day, Conrad hosts a podcast talking about how he's followed reports of that box that he saw when he encountered the Doctor for years, and finally has on his show someone who's been inside it, Ruby Sunday, whom he managed to get a picture of on one occasion of finding the box, and whom he used the picture of online to find. On the podcast, the two chat about the Doctor and how he protects people from aliens alongside UNIT, even as some people are skeptical. Conrad takes Ruby to coffee, and while there, Ruby shows him some footage of a monster called the Shriek that she took the previous night after UNIT captured it. A year previously, the creature had marked its prey, Conrad, when he touched some of the monster's excrement, which left a pheromone on him. Ruby hands him a neutralizing agent, which he can take to make it so that the Shriek can't track him, and he agrees to take it if she lets him buy her dinner. The two then begin dating, and eventually Ruby travels with Conrad to his hometown to meet his friends. As they all chat that evening in a pub, the power cuts out, and Ruby looks outside to see a pair of Shrieks. Conrad admits to her that he didn't take the antidote because he wanted to be brave like the Doctor. Ruby contacts Kate, her friend inside UNIT, who sends a crew there and takes a helicopter there herself in order to help. Ruby and Conrad then head outside to confront the creatures, finding them just as UNIT arrives. The pair of Shriek find themselves surrounded and then stand up and remove masks to reveal that they are two of Conrad's friends. Conrad and his friends all whip out phones and begin live streaming as Conrad pontificates about the so-called lies that UNIT tells and how they only pretend to fight aliens and apparently spend taxpayer money on other things that are being covered up. Conrad is arrested but becomes a media darling overnight and is released shortly thereafter. A member of UNIT then lets Conrad into the HQ building and he makes his way up to the top level with a gun. In a standoff with soldiers, Conrad insists that UNIT tell the world they've been lying on camera. Determined to break the standoff with the truth, Kate releases the Shriek that UNIT has been keeping imprisoned and it begins hunting Conrad. His confidence quickly unravels, of course, and he begs for help, which Ruby eventually gives him when she steps in and tases the creature. Conrad's placed in a prison cell, and while contemplating his time there, the Doctor's Tardis materializes around him, and the Doctor chastises him for his lies and for how he damages and degrades everything the Doctor tries to do. The Doctor also tells him that he'll die alone and angry in his cell, but Conrad says to the Doctor that he rejects this reality and tells him to get off his world. Back in his cell, he finds himself approached by Mrs. Flood, who introduces herself as the governor while holding up a set of keys and telling him that it's his lucky day. And that's where the episode ended. So I was glad to see Ruby Sunday back. I really liked that character, and I thought she had some good beats in this episode. But other than that, I thought this episode was a stinker. And that's a rare thing for me to not like a Doctor Who episode, but I thought it had no substance whatsoever. It was just pointless. To call it filler would be to give it credit that it doesn't deserve. It's not even filler. It's just horrible. I think it could be argued that the point was to sort of mock right-wing conspiracy theory types, but I don't see the value in that as a standalone episode that doesn't involve the Doctor. Like, why couldn't they have found a way to sort of make that point while including the Doctor? The fact that he's only in this in brief cameos is ridiculous. I don't understand why they would make an episode like that, and I think it's unfortunate that Ruby's return was framed that way. I think the character deserves better than that, and I hope we see her again before the season is out. This episode was just bad. One interesting thing about it is that Mrs. Flood is in it, which is not a surprise. And she says something very intriguing. She says she's the governor while dressed as a prison guard or prison warden, not a governor type. So what is she saying? I looked up the governor in Doctor Who history, and there isn't any character of that name that's significant in the show's history, but that name, the Governor, sounds a lot like the name of a Time Lord in the vein of the Doctor and the Master, etc. So my theory at this point is that she's a Time Lord, which won't surprise anyone who's been following it because she's all over time and space in each of these episodes that she's showed up in. She knows what a TARDIS is, and she's apparently ageless. So that's what I'm thinking at this point, that she's a Time Lord that we hadn't met up to this point. What's not entirely clear is whether she's a good guy or a bad guy. And up to this point, she hasn't done anything that would make me think she's a bad guy, except apparently releasing Conrad. So, yeah, it's a real mystery, but I really think that with this revelation that her name is the Governor, she's a Time Lord. But this remains to be seen for sure. Anyway, that's really all there is to say about this episode. It didn't do anything poignant. It just was bad, a bad episode. So I'm going to get out of here, but I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.